Hey guys, I'm here to talk to you guys about PyMol and give you a quick tutorial on how to make a PyMol movie. So go through a little bit of the script for that. So open up PyMol to begin with, full screen it however you like, and you're going to want to fetch your protein. So whatever protein you want to use for your projects, just look up the ID number and type in fetch and then the ID. So 1GC1 is what I'm going to do. And I'm also going to fetch another one, so fetch for NCO. So these are the two things that I want to deal with. You see that one of them disappeared into the background. It's still there. If you zoom out, you can see it. So you're gonna don't worry that it's like lost or something. But for example, let's say you want to orient yourself to something that I just clicked on in this protein over here. A selection bar will appear in the right hand side. If you click action and then orient, it will zoom in onto it. So, okay, cool. Very nice. You can use the mouse wheel to give you a sense of depth to your liking. Okay, anyway, so one important thing that you want to know in making a movie is what you're going to do exactly, right? You're going to want to plan it out before you do it. And you're going to say, I want to show off this catalytic domain or this binding site. I'm going to want to zoom here or something, or focus on these important residues, these charged atoms or something. So to help you do that, you should identify what parts of the protein are which, and you can do that in PyMol by clicking Display, Sequence Mode, and Chains. So nothing shows up yet, but if you click the bottom right-hand corner, this S, it's going to appear here, these different chains that correspond to different segments of your protein. So, yeah. So if you don't know what is what in your protein yet, you can use the protein databank to do that for you because they have it listed. So this one here, for example, is a combination of this blue thing is a combination of GP120 and GP41, these HIV proteins. So if I go over to the protein databank and I search for GP120 and GP41, got a bunch of results. Scroll to the bottom. 4NCO is what I'm looking for. If you click Display Full Polymer Details, you're going to see that it says GP120 is chains A, E, and I, whereas GP41 is chains B, F, and J. So you can do this to your liking. Okay, so for example, A, E, and I are highlighted now. I'm going to want to orient myself to that. So I'll be able to scroll around. And you can extract this object, or you could duplicate it, or copy it rather, but I prefer extracting it, and that way I can get it to appear and disappear easily. So if I click Extract Object, it's going to pull down from the 4NCO fetch. It's going to pull that down and create its own thing. So if I unclick that, it's going to disappear. It's completely gone, right? You can see it go in and out. Obviously, when you make your protein, you're going to have tons of objects. You're going to have like 20 objects for all these different parts of your protein. Depends on the size of your protein, right? So you're going to want to rename it so you can remember which is which and you don't get extremely confused. So if you go down here, you can do rename object. I'm going to rename this, I'm pretty sure this is GP120. So GP120, there you go, the subunits. And I'm going to make this easy for myself later on, and I'm going to extract this particular monomer of this trimer complex and extract that, rename it. GP121. Great. So there you go. I know it's what. Okay. So in making a movie, the first thing that you have to do in terms of your code or script or however, I'm not a CS major, so I'll call it a script, is define the length of your movie in frames. So if you type in mset space 1x So this is 1 by however many frames you want. So for example, in this example, I'll do 900. You can do 1,000, you can do 20, whatever you want. 20 frames is not, don't do 20 frames, do more like 120 or some multiple of 30 or 60, because it's going to play 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second. And you can change how that is in movie, I think. But yeah, frame rate. So 30, there you go. So you could do it really slow. I mean, however you want. So M set 1 by 900, boom. And at the bottom, you see that the bar disappeared, and you're replaced with this tiny gray bar here, and it's this blank space down here, and camera at the bottom right. Okay. So here you go. I'm gonna want to orient this how I want to start my movie. So, and you know, it's all blue. I don't know if I like that. So for NCO, I'll change the color to spectrum, rainbow. Oh, much prettier. Looks fancy. You'll notice that the part I extracted remains unchanged. That's because I took it away from 4NCO. So I have to do that same thing for GP120 as well, for those objects that I created. Now I'm making this colorful. You can do this however you want. You know, you could zoom in on like, I don't know what you want, like this blue segment over here, for example, and you could further enhance it. You know, you could say, I want to show this is a cartoon, and I want to hide all the lines. So now you can see that like this particular GP120 is colored and as a cartoon without all the different atoms being shown. And you can color it however you want. You can kind of explore with that, right? So okay, anyway, so I think this is a great place to start. I'm gonna center it a little bit. Okay, that's how I'm gonna start my movie. So M set 1 by 900. I already did that. So you're going to go to frame 1. It's already set to okay, sorry, I did frame 1. It's already set at frame 1, but I do that before just to make sure that I accidentally click something. The next thing is really important. Basically, you want to do everything in the right order. If you do things in the wrong order, it's just gonna go terribly for you. I did this so many different times. It went terribly so many different ways, and it was a disaster. But it worked out in the end. So scene 001, comma store, a space between scene and 001, and a space after the comma. So, and it will give you a reading up at the top of your screen here, and it'll say scene stored as 001. Okay, so you could do it 01 or whatever, but I prefer this. And then you're going to want to type mview store, space store, okay? So, and it will automatically do this. It already set a scene, and it already set the view as that scene, in that scene. And it's going to it says reinterpolating all frames 1 to 900. So I'll explain what that means in a second, but it basically blurs all your motions together and makes it a smooth transition instead of like these choppy cutscenes. But we don't have any transitions yet, so we'll get to it. So let's say I want to do a 360 overview. I mean, there's a function up at the top here for 360, but I never use them because I'd like to do a more custom kind of camera display or cinematography, if you will. I mean, it's pretty extreme of a word. Okay, so the next thing you're going to want to do is type frame 120, okay? So I typed in frame 120, and you'll see in the bottom here this bar moved 120 frames out of my 900. And now I'm going to want to orient my molecule. So let's say I want to go this way, just like a third of this thing, plus down a little bit, you know, kind of see the bottom of it, you know, get a better angle. You can obviously change it however you want, and however many frames, how quickly you want to do that will determine how many frames you use, or vice versa. So I oriented it. I'm going to want to type in scene 002, comma store. It did that. I'm going to type in mview store again, and we'll store that as well. And boom. So I had a scene 1 with a view 1, a scene 2 with a view 2, and now it's going to reinterpolate all the frames between those. So if I do frame 1, it will push me back to the original frame I was at in scene 1, and I click M play, or type in M play rather, it's going to shift my camera smoothly between both my views. And if you let it keep going, it will slowly shift in one direction. I'm not sure why it does that. It's part of the program. If you go to the bottom right, you can click play and stop, and you'll also be able to tell what frame you're at. So right now I'm at frame 388. I don't need to go there right now. But if I type in frame 1, you'll see sometimes the type will go into the bottom. It doesn't matter. Enter. It'll take me back to frame 1. So, all right, that's pretty cool. So that was really exciting when I first figured out how to do that. But let's say I want to have some sort of not conformational change, but a change in the way it looks, not just a change in the camera angle itself, right? So let's go to frame 240. Now is the time. So right after you type in frame 240, now is the time you're going to want to change the way it looks. So maybe I don't want it to be rainbowed anymore. I want it to be just white or something. Or I want to focus in, I don't know. I want the whole thing to be a cartoon. So I'm hiding all the lines. Oh God. But I want to show the cartoon. So great. Everything's a cartoon, right? And I want to change the angle to look from the above. So I'm looking down at the protein from above. So I reoriented it. I changed the way it looks. I did it all at frame 240. Now I'm going to want to store this as scene 3. So scene 003, store, mview store. And there you go. So if I do frame 1, just to see where I'm at, and then M play, I'm going to see the camera go down just the way I wanted it to, and then I'm going to see it go up and shift to be just cartoon smoothly. Now, if you accidentally do this out of order, you're going to see the camera angle change, but it won't become a cartoon, or vice versa. It'll become a cartoon, and the camera angle won't change, or the whole thing will be a cartoon through your entire movie, and then then I don't know. It's just a disaster. So, just do it slowly, do it carefully. It takes a long time, but you get the idea. Okay, so that's the gist of it. You could do this a bunch of different times. You could do a full 360. You could zoom in on all your different residues and make 1,000 scenes. It's a lot of scenes, and do it all. One thing I found, I'm not going to make a movie that long in this video because it would just take too much of your time. I think you guys get the picture. But I'm on a MacBook Pro right now, and if you have more than, let's say, 9 scenes in this general format, the computer's not going to be able to store all those scenes, and it's going to become very slow in saving your scenes, very slow in playing it. So what you should do is you should make, I don't know, 5 to 8 scenes in a movie that you like. Make sure it plays okay. Then you're going to save it. So go up to File, Save Movie as a QuickTime. Okay, save it as a QuickTime or an MPEG, whatever you prefer to use. And so I'll do that right now. I'll save it to my desktop. So after you save this as a QuickTime file or an MPEG, you're going to want to string a bunch of them together. So you could drop it into iMovie, drop it into any movie editing program you want. And if you have, let's say, 5 different QuickTime files, each with 5 different scenes, then you could just string them all together, play them at whatever speed you want to, add an audio or do something cool. So that's what I advise you to do, instead of make one QuickTime file that's 25 scenes long, because that's going to crash your computer for sure. So especially if you have a bunch of objects. All right. Hello guys. So I've already designated this as a antibody, this blue part here, and this green part here as GP120. So I fetched a protein, looked at their chains, selected them, made different objects, etc. I'm going to show you quickly how to make hydrogen bonds because I feel like that's a very useful skill in making a movie. So the first thing you're going to want to do is copy the script from the Wikipedia page or the PyMol wiki page. So I have that pulled up here. So they give you two options. They give you an option to add hydrogen bonds to within a protein. It's within one protein. So you can do that with this selection here. Or you can see the hydrogen bonds between two proteins, which is what I want to do. So this is just loading the proteins. We don't need to do that. We need to add hydrogens to each protein. So we'll be using that. I'm going to designate protein 1 as my Fab antibody. And protein 2 as GP120. Great. Perfect. We see a selection pop up. Okay, so this part here is part of the overall 4-NCO that I fetched. So I'm not going to be drawing hydrogen bonds within this part of the protein. I decided to hide it instead. So anyway, or it might be one juicy one. It doesn't matter. So anyways, this part you're going to want to make sure you change. You don't want to change acceptor and donor, but you do want to redesignate prot1 and prot2 as the two different objects you have. So prot1 for me is Fab and prot2 is GP120. And 3.2 at the end designates the length of the hydrogen bond, the maximum length the hydrogen bond can be. So if you want to say, I only want to find hydrogen bonds 2 angstroms apart, and you want to replace it with 2.0, if you want to replace it with something like 5 or 6, or 50, 5.0 or 6.0, then you can see different lengths of hydrogen bonds. I actually prefer to extend the length of a hydrogen bonds, maybe like 6 angstroms or something, even if hydrogen bonds don't exist at that distance. These molecules are not going to exist in a very stable, very still state. There's Brownian motion will have them move and jiggle a little bit. So for me, it's interesting to see like what are potential hydrogen bonds that may form if the two proteins kind of wiggle around each other. So I'll leave it at 3.2 for this. You get an idea. Okay, so there's that. And the next one. You're going to want to change these once again. So this deletes the donor and acceptor selections. And then you can hide hydrogens by typing hide hydro. I think that's correct. Yeah, it looks promising. Okay. And then you can okay, so it's hard to see like this, but if you zoom in, you can actually see the hydrogen bonds themselves, these yellow dotted lines right here. So you can see that this residue has 2 hydrogen bonds to this residue here. Here's a good example. See, this hydrogen bond over here actually doesn't seem to be connecting with anything. And that's probably because there are water molecules right there. So before I started this video, I hid all the waters. Let's actually go to this thing. So over here, I have this trimer. I showed it to you briefly in the last video, I think. But this block here is GP120. So I want to superimpose those. Not D. I believe that's it. Perfect. So E, select, extract object. Rename. Okay then. So let's say I could superimpose. I do super GP120, comma space GP120 1. Perfect. It's hard to see because they're both green, but I have them lined up. So let me change the color of GP120 to red. Perfect. And let's make it a cartoon. And GP120, let's make that blue. Also a cartoon. So this particular crystal structure has a larger portion of the full GP120 protein. And as you can see, if you look closely, it's going to line up pretty well. So these base sheets are lined up pretty well. These alpha helices are lined up pretty well. It's going to line up decently, but each crystal structure is going to be slightly different. And so they might not line up 100% perfectly.